All right, good morning, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you're catching this from. We haven't done a live stream here in a while, so I figured we should do that. My name is Dr. Jordan Feigenbaum. I'm with Barbell Medicine. We're here live in studio. We're about to head up to Spokane, Washington to go to Raw Nationals. Leah, Austin, and then Austin's wife are going to compete alongside a bunch of other Barbell Medicine clients. So I'm going to have my coaching hat on. So we're going to do this Q&A thing. You guys know how it works. Ask questions, receive potentially useful answers, sometimes with a little salt thrown in for funsies. Let's see, announcements. New training vlogs, an hour long, that just went up 2 days ago. The audio version is available on iTunes. You can check that out, or wherever you get your podcast from. Posted a new article last week as an update to a specificity series, and I think that you guys should read that. And between that and the new vlog, you guys would be up to date on your muscle physiology, which would be good. So there you go. All right. Hey, Doc, did you finish the Dr. Death podcast? I did. Yeah, I don't want to do any spoilers for anybody, so I'm gonna try to keep all the infotainment to myself. But yeah, I thought it was really well done. The sound engineering was also very good. It was really entertaining. And then even as a doctor, usually I don't like pop science and stuff like that. But this was really interesting, so I would recommend it. Let's see. Hey Doc, in your opinion, will daily cannabis use eventually lead to a decrease in performance due to lower testosterone levels? This has been studied. No, I don't think that. I don't think it will elevate your estrogen necessarily. You've been using it every day. Yeah, I think there are other issues with that potentially, depending on the amount that you use, the poisons in the dose, right? And I think the toxicity level for cannabis is super, super high, where you need to take in a bunch to have a negative effect acutely. And I think as long as it's not associated with like self-medicating for psychological issues, and it doesn't lead to other behaviors that are potentially negative, then I don't really have much problem with it. It's not for me. I don't love it, but it's somebody else. You hip shift in the squat. Oh, it's ship shift. Oh, for like Navy stuff. I mean, what do you do? Not squat? Depends how much, right? Nick Glover, any advice for someone with a high proximal hamstring injury? I mean, Austin and I had a similar thing for a period of time. You got to find movements that you can do and progress them. What I did was I switched to front squats and RDLs. That worked for me to get out of doing low bar squats and pulls from the floor, and I did that for a few weeks and was able to get back in action. If you're still having problems, you should contact Michael Ray, Dr. Michael Ray, and Dr. Derek Miles. They're doing pain rehab consults through Barbell Medicine and are really good at it. What is the reasoning between benching with the belt? Javier says or asks. Well, I want to do a good Valsalva maneuver and also decrease the potential fatigue on my back from isometric bracing, because I'm about to deadlift afterwards, usually at a meet anyway. How to prevent hips from shooting up out of the hole when squatting? You don't want to prevent that. Am I Van Halen level now? I don't know what that means. Van Halen or Van Hagar? Because that's a question. Any plans for Denver next year? I actually think that we might be going to Boulder, Colorado next year. Maybe it is Denver. I don't know. There's a guy who wants to host us anyway. Question, do soccer players need to spend 30 minutes doing stretching and mobility as well as light jogging to prepare for performance and reduce injury risk for a game? I mean, jogging with gradually elevating some sort of interval type of sprint work in there would be a reasonable specific warm-up for soccer, but stretching is bullshit, doesn't do anything. So, hey, do you have a recommendation for minimum and ideal protein needs for school-age kids? Asking for my child who asked to read Grandkids, don't want to use internet info. I mean, the information on the internet is reasonable. I think it's like 75 or 76 grams a day of protein for kids. If they eat, nobody's done trials where they're doing feeding kids more protein than that. So I don't know if they need more protein than that, especially if they're not training, if they're not, actively participating in high-level sports, and they probably aren't because they're kids. So anyway, hit my first set of bench for 8 reps at 7.5, rested for 3 minutes, and got 8 at 7. Was I sandbagging the first set, or does this second wind effect happen commonly? I don't know exactly what happened. Either the first set wasn't really a 7, or the second set we were more warmed up. Yeah. Ooh, let's see. All right, back to the tubes. How do you make the most nuanced cup of coffee? I like pour over. That's my jam. Yeah. 30 grams of ground coffee. I prefer a light roast, and then 350 cc's of water. Yeah, 4 pours. Question about long-term clomid use for men with low T instead of anabolic steroids. I haven't seen any long-term data on clomiphene citrate use for that, although some short-term studies show that it can improve FSH and LH levels and subsequently testosterone levels. That's not universal, but if you suspect that potentially the person's not getting enough FSH and LH produced via GnRH release from the hypothalamus, then that is a strategy that you and your doctor could use. If you're not seeing a doctor and you're asking about this, then I would send you to a psychiatrist, because are you crazy? Are you crazy? You're just going to do this on your own? Come on. Jordan, what do you think about Eric Helms and his 3DMJ group? I like Eric Helms. I don't know everybody involved in the 3DMJ group, but I like Eric's stuff. Jordan, I remember you saying that if you were to train for bodybuilding, you'd do a lot more isolation exercises. That's true, because they will allow me to do more volume, provide more stress on certain muscles with less total fatigue than just doing the classic barbell lifts, which are not adequate to grow all of your muscles to bodybuilding levels. So it just depends. I mean, I don't do much, if any, bodybuilding stuff right now, and some people are like, "Oh, you look like this when all you do is powerlifting." It's like, well, if I was a bodybuilder, I'd be very undertrained. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. How do I get a copy of the updated 12-week strength template if you bought a older version in the past? If you bought just the 12-week strength template before, we should have sent it to you already. If you bought it in the master template, then we have not updated that yet. So, Jordan, I find it hard to know if I'm progressing with the barbell row since I have a tendency to cheat a bit more. I would not use cable rows instead. I don't care if you're progressing your barbell row. It's an assistance exercise. I don't care about it. Am I coming to South Florida next year? No. We had a place lined up to go to in Florida in January, but the person working at that gym apparently did not want us very much and cannot answer emails, and it was becoming frustrating. So we're going to be in Santa Cruz in January. We're going to be in Australia in February, and then, go from there. Jordan, what's up? Someone mentioned they saw a video of yours. I was talking about using leg drive instead of hip drive. Yeah, it was in the last training vlog. Yep. Does the bridge document outline what to do if you're ready to be intermediate on only 1 or 2 lifts? I would not catch you. You don't want a third to catch up, and the bridge is not mutually exclusive from a linear style progression, because you can just add weight to the bar if the subjective effort level remains the same. So, been to a doc for a blood test for celiac. Okay, no tissue transglutaminase or other antibodies. They've identified a kidney issue flagged as high creatinine and low GFR. No, they didn't. Yeah, so I don't know what your creatinine levels were, and it depends how big you are and if you're taking creatine, but high or mildly elevated serum creatinine, I should say this, with absence of electrolyte disorders, without a urinary creatinine that does not suggest increased filtration of creatinine, that would be the problem. If you just have elevated serum creatinine, but your urinary creatinine is also higher, and you're an above average muscled guy, and you're taking creatine, then that all makes sense. So sometimes it doesn't matter anyway. If you just have an elevated creatinine level but no other issues, you know, the nephrologist gets to make the final call on that. But if it's, if your creatinine is 1.2, you should ask your doctor about that. They probably just flagged it on lab results. Yeah. Are 2 sets at the same RPE will bring the same adaptation if one of them is heavier? Potentially. So if you're saying if the subjective effort is the same, but the weight is different between 2 sets, do they have the same implication on the adaptive improvement? And probably, yeah. Especially for non 1 RM strength. Even for that, actually. So I'd probably say yes, as long as the weight's not terribly different. Yeah. Let's see. In order to keep my carbs in check, I've been drinking Monster, 0 calories, diet sodas, Powerade 0. Should I be worried about artificial sweeteners? No. The people warning you about them are not smart. That's how you can tell if somebody's smart or not. If they warn you about artificial sweeteners, these are the same people who tell you not to get a flu vaccine. These are the same people who tell you that, all sugar's bad and it'll kill you and you should go keto and, you need a cleanse and toxins in your body. Just, smile and nod. Is there evidence that diet is directly related to physical problems such as acne breakouts? No. For most forms of acne. Let's see. Boris, can you recommend any LP programs that are non-starting strength? All programs and that are not, using an undulating periodization type approach can be done linearly. So. Grayskull LP is more enjoyable and very effective. I probably wouldn't recommend Grayskull either. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do as a novice progression because you're a novice. And, if you're on a program that only allows itself to be done for 3 to 4 months without changing it or modifying it significantly towards the end, then I just don't know if it matters which one that you choose. Yeah. Is healthcare worker abuse underreported? Yes. I have witnessed it also. Yes. Does curcumin extract inhibit the body's natural inflammatory response to building muscle? No, I wouldn't take it anyway. Yeah. If a person is overweight and trying to lose weight, do you still keep protein at 1 gram per pound of body weight? I would do 1 gram per pound of lean body weight if they're obese. Sure. Dr. F, are you familiar with a critical analysis of the ACSM position stand on resistance training, insufficient evidence to support recommended training protocols? I like this all in caps. It's like you're yelling. All right, let's use the Google machine. I don't know if I've seen this, but I might have. Let's see. Oh, Journal of XPhys. I see. Let's see what it says. Oh, it's about research bias. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any response to this. This thing's funny to me. I mean, basically, people are saying, why weren't we involved on determining these the recommendations? I don't care about that. Yeah, I don't care. What should you do after the bridge for maintenance, slow improvement, combined with 3 times a week running? Do the GPP endurance template. Yeah. How concerning are clicking and popping shoulders with no pain? They are not important, not concerning at all. What muscle movement should I train to have my deadlift be as fast off the floor as possible? If you were competing in a sport where you were really concerned about the velocity of your deadlift, then you would do deadlifts at intensities that allowed you to move them quickly, meaning that you would do lighter deadlifts quickly because that would train your high velocity force production. If you're just concerned about improving your deadlift overall, it's going to be slow, and I would not concern myself with being fast off the floor. I would concern myself with just being stronger off the floor. Yeah. I have a basement gym doing 12-week strength and can't do overhead press at home. I can do it on my GPP day when I go to the gym. Sure, do that. That's fine. Yeah, that'll work. Doing the 4-day hypertrophy program, I think I'm a poor responder to strength training. I've been working out for a while, but the only major lift I seem to get stronger at in the long run is deadlifts. Is there a question? Goat. No, not a goat. We are going to Raw Nationals to watch. Do you know of a place for non-competitors to train in Spokane? Oh man, Leah sent me the name of the place that we're going to train at. I don't know. Yes, there are places to train though. Do you have any advice for SI joint pain and how to work around them? One, I would just stop diagnosing it or calling it SI joint pain. I don't think that's helpful. It doesn't change management. It just gives you a label and you are not that person. Two, I think that if you need to find movements that you can do and train and stay as active as possible. And then I also think that if you have been having this issue for a period of time, you know, a few weeks with no improvement and you're at a loss for what to do, I think I would probably pay a professional to help me figure it out. Michael Ray and Derek Miles are the guys who I would refer you to if you were someone I loved. So, and they're working with Barbell Medicine. So you can send us an email. We'll try to help you out. Jordan, what type of coffee do you drink? This is Phil's coffee. This is Ambrosia, coffee of the gods. Yeah. Ran the 12-week strength template, and my squat and deadlift responded very well. 30 to 40 pounds. Bench and press did not increase. Did not respond as well. 5-pound PRs. Do I just need more bench and press volume? Potentially. I mean, you would try to see if there was any sort of detraining that occurred towards the end, so maybe you needed a delayed peak compared to the squat and the deadlift. Or maybe that the relative increase in lifts was the same. Could be. Jordan, do you think a bodybuilding style split routine is ever an effective option for natural lifters? I don't think that bodybuilding training is a good choice for people who are not bodybuilders, because there are other things that you'd want to do if you have other goals. Yeah, it doesn't mean you can never do a body, like, you know, I don't even know what a bodybuilding style split is. That's just upper lower. I mean, sometimes from a scheduling standpoint that's going to be fine, but what's the adjustment for deadlifting where as soon as I break the ground, the bar moves forward about 2 inches, then comes up? I don't know. If the bar's behind the middle of the foot, you should check that out. If your hips are too high, that would be an indication that the bar is behind the middle of the foot. If you're yanking the bar off the floor and your lats are not contracted tightly to keep the bar on your legs, then I would look into that. Otherwise, it's hard to tell without seeing it. Kevin, Quizboy, hi Jordan, do you adjust weight on the before or the next set then rest, or do you rest then adjust? What? I don't know what that means. Do you agree with Ripito that veganism is an eating disorder? No. Hey Doc, in the bridge you program 3 times per week a different variation of the squat. What is the main difference between this approach and using only the traditional squat variation? The main difference is that there are 3 variations instead of 1 variation. That's the main difference. I have a chronic knotted area in the upper back. Have continued lifting throughout and seen a physio noting tight neck and upper back, which is not true. It's a waste of money. Would taking Advil for a few days potentially resolve the issue? I cannot advise you to use Advil or any other anti-inflammatory, and I don't think that your perception of knots in your upper back has anything to do with an inflammatory mediated disease. I think that if you have pain, then potentially you could talk to your doctor about taking a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. That seems reasonable, but I can't tell you to take that. And I would just tell you that you 100% do not have knots in your upper back. 100% do not have any knots, any adhesions in your upper back. They don't exist. So you might have fatigue from programming and acute on chronic workload mismanagement, which is not your fault necessarily, but that's usually where that stuff comes from. I wanted to direct a guy at my gym with shoulder pain to your content. When he heard the word doctor, he said, yeah, I already know about pain science. I do tons of foam rolling and stretching. Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Oh, man. Doesn't more strength equal more speed? No, that does not necessarily hold. Strength is force production in a particular context, so strength is specific. 1 RM is low velocity, maximum force production within a certain that time domain. Marathon, for instance, is strength, endurance, repeated force production over time that is metabolically and neurologically different than a 1 RM. So the supposition that increasing your 1 RM will improve your performance in an endurance event, while potentially logical if you write it out in a book, it doesn't hold. And then there's a difference between low velocity and high velocity force production. High velocity force production requires the actin myosin to bind and then release very quickly, whereas low velocity requires the exact opposite. In addition, stiffening of the tissues, stiffening of the tendons, voluntary activation, improvements and changes, stiffening of the antagonistic muscles, a bunch of other things that you wouldn't want for high velocity force production. So they're different. To the extent that an untrained person who gets stronger also improves their power production, sure, that would, generally getting stronger might, it tends to improve explosive force production up until a point, in which case, at that point, then doing the transference is less. So, thoughts on intermittent fasting? Does it have any acute effects on insulin sensitivity and or any long-term effects? I mean, yeah, if you don't eat, so if you fast, it'll improve insulin sensitivity in people with diabetes, and it'll cause weight loss because you're in a calorie deficit. If you do intermittent fasting and are then in a caloric surplus, it doesn't do anything helpful. If you do intermittent fasting, you're at a maintenance level diet, don't lose that, as evidenced by the fact that you're not losing any weight, and you're obese or you have diabetes or other sort of metabolic issue, it's not going to improve that just because you're fasting. So there you go. Doc, I'm going to start working on a moving company soon. Would deadlifting furniture off the floor carry over to my barbell deadlift? I mean, to some level, some non-zero level, but I think not as much as deadlifting with the barbell would. How much you hip thrust? About 350. Yeah. When is the Barbell Medicine app coming? I don't think it's going to be released till January. That's what our developer quoted us. So, Jordan, what volume and frequency of speaking to women do you recommend for ensuring some amount of successful interactions? I think that depends on your level of nuance. The more nuance you have, the less frequently you're going to have to do this because you're going to be successful. The less nuance you have, the more frequently you're going to have to do this. Just strike out more often. No, man. Women, yeah, I don't know. I went on a date with this girl, and then second date, I don't know, I thought I liked her. It turns out she's got a boyfriend. This whole time, National Boyfriend Day comes around, I see she's got a boyfriend. I was like, what am I doing? Social media is ruining it. So, anyway, that was funny. Hey, Doc, I found that adding a third pull from the floor has been very beneficial for me on the Bridge 2.0. Any recommendations on keeping that frequency into the 12-week strength template? We already have you pull 3 times a week. So, there you go. Jordan, my friend tweaked his back. I told him not to panic, choose movements that didn't hurt, do air deadlifts, etc. And go through Barbell Medicine's materials. He smoked his triples then. Hey, that's cool. Smoke them if you got them. Nice. Some days I feel really bad about myself, then other days I feel really great and positive. I know I should see a GP, but fear an official diagnosis worsening my perception of the condition. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's something to deal with. The other side of that argument, is if you are undiagnosed and therefore untreated, how do you expect to get better? Right? So you got to want to get better. You want to get better, right? I wanted to become a sports medicine doctor for a while until I noticed I'd end up treating injuries when what I want is increase exposure to lifting, make barbell train the new walking. That's true. I think you could, sports med doc, you'd have a lot of cachet in the community. I think if you actually want to push strength training and you want to do it via the medical routine, then any primary care specialty would be great. Pediatrics would be cool too. Will Barbell Medicine ever come to North Carolina? That would be cool. Charlotte, maybe. Yeah. Have to be on Cipro for 4 weeks. What sort of lifting can I do that won't give me a ruptured tendon? I mean, there's no lifting that you could do from now to the next 6 months that gives you non-zero or that gives you 0% chance of rupturing a tendon. That being said, the risk overall is low. You're a young guy. You've been training before. I would not, best practices, I would advise against dynamic, plyometric type movements, power cleans, box jumps, high intensity intervals, sprinting, stuff like that. But I think the slow lifts, you'd be fine. Just, from a general risk benefit thing. The risk of training is that you have some very low chance of potentially having a tendinopathy, tendon issue that's going to persist for a series of months, provided you're on the, and then that's assuming that you can't get on a different antibiotic for whatever you're being treated for. And then, but the benefit of, the risk of not training rather is fairly significant too. So, weighing those together and then the potential benefits from training, I'd probably just train. Yeah. Jordan, a personal question for you. Oh, that's good. How have you dealt with denial in the past, grad school, jobs, etc.? Yeah, I think most of the time getting rejected is actually like a sign from the universe that self-improvement needs to occur. And I don't mean that you need to try to put a positive spin on it, because rejection in general is not a fun thing, but trying to take something positive away from it would be that the universe is trying to tell you that, hey, for what we're looking for, or for what is highly valued in whatever request that you're trying to make, you don't have the right stuff, so you have to improve. So if it was grad school, I got rejected a bunch of stuff. I know I needed a higher GPA. I know I needed more stuff on my resume. If it's been jobs, similar sort of deal, and also making sure that I'm applying for the right jobs. So yeah, I think anytime we get rejected, that's just like a key that we need to work on some self-improvement. That's what I think. Is it normal to need 10 hours of sleep to feel well rested? No. For a hypertrophy template, my friend and I want to replace the incline bench with close grip bench. Is there a dumbbell alternative to the press that is effective? No, for that question. You can replace incline bench with close grip bench if you want. It's fine. And do I play Dungeons and Dragons? Nay. Does KT tape do anything at all? No, it doesn't. Any tips for golfers' elbow recovery? Not necessarily, other than I would still train. It's going to go away. Yeah. What to do on GPP days on the bridge? Exactly what it lists. I think I gotta just, I'm just putting them in timeout. Do you recommend setting target weights each week for the singlet 8 on your programs? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. When, if ever, would it benefit a non-bodybuilder to increase volume of more hamstring-specific work, such as RDLs, good mornings, leg curls? Well, I don't think any of those are hamstring-specific work until you get to leg curls. We do RDLs, good mornings, regularly in our programs. Leg curls, though, yeah, I think on maybe a hypertrophy-based program where you're trying to give somebody a break from all the barbell work, for a period of a few weeks, but you want to jack the volume up. Yeah, that's probably when I would do that. Hey, Jordan, is the bridge a good program for peaking for a meet? No, it's not. How should I go about getting my wrist injury diagnosed? Straight to a PT or MD? You need to go to a doctor first. They're going to do a physical exam. I'd probably go to a sports med doc. Yeah, they'll do a physical exam. They'll order an x-ray probably right off the bat. And then if that comes back inconclusive and you have certain types of symptoms, they may order additional imaging and refer you. Is your nutrition any different on training versus non-training days? Nope. Nope. Rerunning the bridge for a second time, Anna Webster says. What's up, Anna? Would it be a good idea to sub 3-count bench for pin bench on week 5, 6 in my second run? Sure. That seems reasonable. Yeah, tag us on the gram. Hey, Doc, I've been splitting the bridge 2.0 into lower body and upper body. I do this to keep my time in the gym about 1 hour per day. I guess if that's the only way you can train, do it, man. Power Manny, what's up? You're doing a psych residency? Cool, man. Nice. Solutions to deadlifting with hex plates. Buy 1 pair of bumpers and put those on the inside, or deadlift from the lowest pins possible in a power rack. Yeah. So the plates aren't touching the floor. New templates are great. Any plans to update the rest? C. Yes. For improved athletic ability, hypertrophy versus strength focus. If you're talking about sprints, then I think neither. If there are known exercises that improve sprinting ability, and none of them are the things that you suggested. I talked about this in the last training vlog. Hip thrusts, Nordic hamstring curl, or eccentric GHDs rather, and high velocity strength work. Yep. Is Mike Tuchschere's RTS manual a useful, worthwhile read for the recreational strength trainee? I mean, I'm interested in all that stuff, so I'd think so, but I'm biased. I don't think it's got his most up-to-date information. Sure. Can reverse pyramid be beneficial, for example, performing a relatively heavy squat, 315 at RP 8 for 5, then 275 for 7, 250 for 9? I've heard this can prime your CNS for lighter weights. I mean, be beneficial for what? I don't know if I would decrease the weight. I mean, if I was trying to get stronger, you know, generally, and I had no specific constraints on where that was, I would probably have multiple different rep ranges in different workouts. And if you were doing, you know, heavy 5s for the day, I probably wouldn't do 315 for 5, then 275 for 7, 250 for 9. I probably wouldn't do that necessarily. Yeah. It doesn't mean you can't. That's not the way I would program it. Has you or Dr. Baraki's time at CrossFit MD influenced any of your programming philosophies? Absolutely not. Look, the CrossFit Level 1 MD is the CrossFit Level 1 training certification just done with a bunch of doctors in-house. It's not the right seminar for doctors if to push CrossFit's aim. So I like the message. I like what Glassman's trying to do, and trying to get more doctors to not only be able to recommend exercise, but also push exercise in the community as a primary preventative lifestyle modification to combat diseases of Western civilization. The problem is you don't need doctors to go to a training certification, especially one like that. You don't want them to be coaches. You don't want them to be trainers. They're not going to do that. They're not working up to their level of expertise. You wouldn't want them to go from, hey, I am a doctor of medicine. I have this specialty, accreditation via my residency that I completed, but now I'm just going to coach CrossFit classes in my local box. You wouldn't want that. That'd be terrible. And further, you can't develop coaches through a weekend seminar anyway. Not that they're saying that you are, but so if you're a doctor and you have reservations about, recommending exercise to patients, either because you're not sure if it's safe, you don't know how, you want more evidence, then what you would want is a seminar that provided you continuing medical education, so you had basically paid for your time to be there because you need to do that stuff anyway, that covered the risks, benefits, and the how of exercise and nutrition interventions in multiple different common things that you come across in the clinic, and thereby have a better understanding of how effective exercise can be. And that's what we're doing with the Barbell Medicine seminar. And I think that the coolest thing would be if Greg called us up and said, hey, we want to do a CrossFit Barbell Medicine seminar. We want you guys to take over this MD thing. I don't suspect that's going to happen, but he seemed to like us, and I am supportive of their overall effort to get more docs on board with this stuff. It just can't be through the level 1 certification. That thing, that's not the right thing for docs. So as part of meet prep, I've seen some people do a walkout with anticipated third squat. I don't think that's useful. No. I'm addicted to energy drinks. Other than some sleep disturbances, is it bad for strength gains or health? No, but sleep is important. What can help me be more stable and strong from the hole on the squat? More squats. Yeah. Jordan, I completed the first workout of the bridge, but haven't worked out in 2 weeks due to other life commitments. I would just start the thing over again. Yeah. Do I think I will hit my 300-pound press goal this year? I don't know. I haven't been pressing at all the last few weeks because I thought I was en route to a big bench press PR. I'm going to give it another 2 weeks or so before I maybe change things. Yeah. Took a job as a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness. Any tips on how to deal with other trainers, fitness manager telling me I need to do more movement exercises and corrective exercises? If you have a clientele that are paying your wage, and you're not struggling for clients, and tell them to, F off politely. What are you correcting? What movement assessments are specific enough and sensitive enough that actually change your management? The answer is that there are none. There are no movement assessments that you can do on somebody that accurately predict what is wrong with them and that you can fix. That's just NASM bullshit. Okay, it's NASM bullshit. The studies on this stuff are very clear that they're not specific enough to alter your management. Okay, meaning that you would do a test, say, oh, this person's got tight lateral calves, tight something. And so then you would try to do these other exercises, but it's not telling you the right thing. Also, being able to do the functional movement screen perfectly might even, in some sports, predict a higher rate of injury. So if they're telling you that you need to do different things because you need to get more clients, well, I think what they're telling you is that your sales technique needs improvement, which may or may not be true. But if they're telling you to do these different movements, assessments, and corrective exercises because they just took a NASM certification, well, then you just need to tell them, hey, I don't believe your certification is correct. And you can do that any way you want. NASM is a terrible certification. That's true. That's the last one that I would recommend people get. My gym doesn't allow deadlifts without thick mats. I'm not a powerlifter, though. Yeah, you can do them slightly elevated. That's fine. Or you can stand on a thick mat if you're really concerned about it. Who would win in a fight? Louis Simmons, Mark Ripito, or you with the stethoscope? I think Rip's got the most guns. I think he wins. I don't know. I disagree. Okay. Can you speak to the importance of taking 2 consecutive days off? There's no importance to that necessarily. Yeah. Doc, can you show us how you hone and strop your straight razor? Nah, man, that's a Barbell Medicine exclusive. You gotta get an invite. I hear a lot of sumo pullers talk about having your shoulders directly over the barbell. Would you agree this is necessary, or should your shoulders be slightly in front of the bar like conventional? You cannot sumo deadlift a heavy weight with the shoulders directly over the barbell. They will be in front of the barbell just like in a conventional deadlift. You don't have a choice. Jordan, what do you think about old school lifting styles of linear progression? I'm trying to Doug Hepburn program and trying to get stronger. Am I wasting my time? I think you are. Yeah, I think that there are no old school programs that routinely outperform new style programs that are also based in progressive overload. We just know more now. Our athletes are stronger now. I don't know what else to tell you. Can you replace leg press with high bar squats in the 12-week strength program? You could, sure. Is creatine fine for someone with one kidney smaller than the other? Everyone's got one kidney smaller than the other. I don't know what your kidney pathology is, so I don't know if I can comment. What template would you recommend for developing strength for BJJ and grappling? I think if you're training those multiple times a week, then you probably should do the GPP endurance template. Yeah. How do you think IFBB bodybuilders train? I have no idea. Yeah. Varying different ways. How concerned should I be about artificial sweeteners? I think you asked this earlier. The answer is I wouldn't be. Daniel Johnson says, Luke, shoulder directly over the bar in sumo is correct. No, it's not. You actually can't deadlift like that. So, there you go. Is it okay to do abs and arms on non-training day of Bridge 2.0 as opposed to at the end if time is an issue? Sure. Would pull-ups the day before deadlifts affect performance? If you're really undertrained, but you'll get used to it. Hey Doc, anything special to do to prepare for a second lifting session 36 hours after the first one? No, I usually train multiple days in a row. You don't have to do anything, you'll be fine. How to accurately measure leg length discrepancy? I wouldn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You notice that your right leg is longer than your left. That's not unusual. 95% of the population that's walking around has one leg that's longer than the other by some amount. And 2/3 of those folks will have one that's longer by 5 centimeters or more. Point is that it's not causing pain. It's not the cause of your pain, most likely. It's not the cause of any exercise abnormality. And diagnosing it doesn't change what you do, so I wouldn't measure it at all. Kneeling chairs have any benefit? If you want to kneel, sure. I'm wondering why starting strength and Ripito fans never be good lifters. I don't know. You could have called Austin and I starting strength, and we were good lifters. Chase is a good lifter. You know, Brian Fox and Justin Lassick were good lifters. I wonder why you say that, Daniel. I mean, it doesn't bother me, really. It just, I think that there are other reasons if you don't like a particular person or brand that you could, that you could talk about rather than the quality of their lifters. I think that that's not what I would attack in starting strength. Yeah. In your last training vlog, you mentioned that if one is not interested in competing in powerlifting, you would use a bigger variety of exercises. What kind of exercises? Depends on each person. Yeah. Trap bar deadlift, front squats, RDLs, maybe more dumbbell work, sure. Thoughts of comparing RPE to a pain scale seems faulty considering pain is more subjective and hardly anyone will experience 10 out of 10 pain, whereas almost everyone will miss a rep at some point. I don't know if I would compare them in any way other than they're both Likert scales. So, can you explain the fatigue percentages in your templates? No, they're not. We don't use them anymore. They're just there. Jordan, do I go with Adidas NMDs or Ultra Boosts? I like the NMDs more from an aesthetic view, but the Ultra Boosts I think are more comfortable. So, any chance you would pair the 12-week strength template and one of your hypertrophy templates in a 2-for-1 offer? Probably not, no. Any use in taking raloxifene for pubertal gyno that has been present for 6 years? Maybe. Watch all good sumo lifters. All of them have shoulders directly over the bar. No, they really don't. You watch all good sumo deadlifters, you see the front of their shoulder in front of the bar. Sorry, Daniel. Tony Gish says, I am NASM certified and it is bullshit. Well, that's true. That's the benefit of being true. Shalom from North Florida. I hope you guys are all right down there. Is there any maximum amount of protein your body can take in at one time? No. Nope. This just in. Everything kills us. This just in also. Update. We're all going to die. Like, is it terribly bad if the last set of 5x5 or 4x4 at 8 turns into a 9? I don't care. Pull the Plug says, I don't get the point of bulking if you can strength and muscle without doing it if you are not underweight, obviously. If you are not underweight but not overweight and you have room to grow and you want to put on more muscle, it's faster to do it if you gain weight than if you don't gain weight. So, do you have recommendations for a novice to build strength while also training for track 800 meters? No, I don't. Especially if they're 17. Yeah, I don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about that. But if they're a novice, it really doesn't matter. If they've never trained, it doesn't matter. Can a leg length discrepancy lead to anterior pinching hip pain at the bottom of the squat? No. What reason would a coach program doubles? From my perspective, they wouldn't display strength as well as singles at 8 and wouldn't allow for much productive volume for sets of 3+. That's true, although you make an argument during a peaking block that doing doubles would have similar bioenergetic demands as a single, and the weight would be heavy enough to increase voluntary activation, muscular coordination, the skill of the movement, and the stiffness properties that are in the muscles and tendons that are associated with increasing 1RM. So that would be the argument, but if you're using them in a volume block, I think that's probably less than ideal. What are your thoughts on laser therapy for reducing pain and inflammation? That's stupid. How many days off should I take after a brutal migraine? I probably wouldn't take any days off. Not just because you could then hashtag no days off, hashtag 24/7, hashtag can't stop, won't stop, hashtag blessed, but just because why would you take the day off? You also have high blood pressure. Migraines always happen after deadlifts. Is there something else I can do that's just as good as deadlifts? I would see if doing it lighter helps, if changing the range of motion helps. Make sure that your blood pressure is well controlled, and I would keep training. Yeah, weight loss probably help. Do you think getting stronger on your squat deadlift will help your Olympic lifts? It can, yeah. There's some transference, sure. How many Barbell Medicine singlets will be repped at Raw Nats? Oh, I think, I don't know. So, probably 10, something like that. Any spots left for San Antonio next year? Yeah, I think there are. How do you tell if you're noceboing yourself versus legitimately fatigued from accumulated volume by the end of a cycle? Well, I don't know if you can. Right? I mean, unless you have insight into your own thought processes and subconscious, I don't know if you can. This is coffee. Any advice on how to maximize hypertrophy for a poor responder? Sure. More training. Yeah. More training, more protein. Yep. On the new templates, the cardio and arm work are specified as times per week, but the ab and trunk work are not specified. Do you do the same frequency as the cardio for the... Oh, yeah. Do the same frequency. Yeah. 3 or 4 inch belt for someone who is 5'9". I like a 4 inch belt better. Yeah. Lightning says, you say 3 sets of 10 versus 10 sets of 3 give the same stimulus. I did not say that. Yeah. Bryce Krasik is teaching sumo deadlift with shoulders directly over the bar. Well, he's just he's just saying that his shoulders are over the bar, but they're actually in front. You watch every one of his deadlifts, they're all like that. So it's just a cue. He's a really good puller. Was one of our clients for a while. He's a good dude. And I think if you showed him video and you say, look, the actual anterior aspect of your shoulders in front of the barbell when you deadlift, it's not directly over the bar, then he would say, oh, you're right. It's probably just semantics. What was my favorite part of med school? The end. Yeah. If I wasn't gonna do barbell medicine, I'd probably just do ortho. Yeah, hang out with my bros. How do I minimize fat gain when gaining weight? Do it slowly. Make sure you're training a bunch. Have good genetics. Sure. If you took a lethal dose of anything, are you also taking a lifetime supply? That's pretty funny. 150 kilo low bar squat and 225 kilo deadlift. Any thoughts about that ratio? So we're talking about 330 to 490. Probably, I would guess that you have longer arms, are a little underweight, and round your back when you deadlift. Potentially, maybe you had a knee injury at some point, or yeah. That's what I would guess. Thoughts on reverse dieting? I don't think that there's any evidence that you need to go slow outside of compliance. Yeah. Do you see any issues with using kettlebells for overhead pressing on the hypertrophy template versus barbells? I don't care. As a coach and researcher, have you found that recovery rates post-rep maxes are vastly different between the sexes? No, I haven't. I actually think that there's nothing that I can predict about responsiveness to training based on gender alone, because there are many women who exhibit traditionally what we would call athletic traits, so narrow hips, wide shoulders, lots of lean body mass, large appendages, hands and feet, who respond really well to training, who are very explosive, just like there are many men who have narrow shoulders, wide hips, low amounts of lean body mass, high amounts of fat mass, small hands, small feet. And, where you're at on this sort of athletic spectrum, is going to be more indicative of how you respond to training and you recover from training. So. Hey doc, so one of my clients got DOMS from deadlift, went to see her doctor who basically told her she's too old to lift heavy and shouldn't deadlift. How does a young, stupid trainer like me change her mind? Well, I don't know. Did she listen to the doctor? You just call the doctor and ask what he means and ask him to cite the evidence. Because honestly, if you get on PubMed and you're like elderly, resistance training in elderly benefits, you're going to find huge meta-analyses and huge reams of data, whereas the caution to not resistance train is very, very small. So You can say, hey, we expect you to get sore from new challenges that you're likely to face in your daily life, like deadlifting, and we expect you to adapt to them and get better at them, which is going to help you in your daily life. Now, if picking up something off the floor is not something that you're willing to do, well, how are you going to pick up your grandkids? How are you going to pick up your groceries? How are you going to, interact with the daily life, in your daily life? We need to prevent you from losing any strength. In fact, get stronger. We need to prevent you from losing any muscle mass. In fact, gain some more muscle mass. We need to prevent you from losing any more bone mass. And I think the best way to do that is via resistance training with an external load. Now, you're not hurt. You've got some soreness, but that's nothing new. That'll go away. We'll deadlift tomorrow. That's probably how I'd do it. Let's see. I've been squatting 4 to 5 times a week, 7 to 10 sets of 60 to 70% in order to work on form. Should I be concerned about potential wear on my hips and knees due to overuse, lack of recovery? No. I'd worry about if you're actually getting stronger or not. Yeah. Do you think you possess the physical strength to rip a man's arm off? Can't confirm. I do. When we were kids, I grabbed my brother's arm and yanked it out of socket. Gave him a nursemaid's elbow. Yep. I was wrestling at RPE 10. I have orthopedic insoles now. I'm wondering if it's important to also lift in those. Doesn't matter. I don't care. Sure. Sarah Galanti, when is your next seminar in Texas? I think it's, we're going to San Antonio in May, I think. I don't know. June, something like that. Yeah, San Antonio's, it's up on the website. Excuse me. How would you program for a novice only who has 1 day a week to train with weights? I don't know if I could do that. Yeah. I am 33. Yeah. Garrett, what's up, buddy? Is there any good data on the correlation between a strong deadlift and the amount of attention received from the opposite sex? No, only data on how big your deadlift is and attention from the same sex. If you pull over 700, the dudes are thirsty. It's true. Let's see. Tony's coffee was good in Seattle. Yeah, we'd have to go back. I don't know when we're going to get back to the Northwest. Hopefully we can schedule something for next fall. Jordan, a few months ago, the Peri-Med Mediterranean diet study was retracted because the paper published in New England Journal of Medicine 2013 was flawed, and many other incidences, especially in nutrition research. The studies get retracted all the time for various reasons. So that's not the Mediterranean diet study. So, yeah, I'm not sure what your question is. Did squat, no belt today after hitting 415 for a single, but I experienced a major hip soreness and only hit 345 for a single at 8. Any thoughts on why it got more difficult? Training fatigue. Yep. Question about becoming a coach for you. I think I want to be a coach after coaching someone through the LP. I have an opportunity to try and be SSOC, but it could be a good way to break in and gain a lot of experience in a short period of time. Could lend me any wisdom about moving forward. I don't think, so I think that if you have not coached before in person, it is not possible to become a good coach via the internet alone. I think that you have to develop your coaching eye in person where you can actually move and communicate with somebody in real time so that you develop those skills, which will help you be an adequate online coach. I think that working with that organization would be a detriment to your coaching development, and I think that I would not do it. Yeah. Below the knee rack pulls for deadlift assistance for intermediate trainees new at the movement. Would you program? I program them beltless on mid-shin rack pulls. Yeah. You can see how I program them in the bridge. Yeah. How quickly does activity level change your BMR? Immediately. That's, yeah. Jordan, what strategies do you and Austin implement to avoid becoming dogmatic like RIP? Yeah, I don't know if there's anything we consciously do other than we have insight into our own biases and try to actively like reject them. Yeah. I mean, look, the dogmatism over there, that's new development. That's not long lasting. That's new. So I would be the only SSC within 100 miles of where I live. Twin Cities might be lucrative. I disagree. There's nobody who's killing it in that. There's nobody in that organization besides 2 people, one of which is not coaching folks full time. Both of which are not coaching folks full time, who are making a killing. So I would disagree with that. Yeah. Doesn't mean you won't make more money than you could working at your local gym, but I think it does not develop your skill set as a coach. It does not develop your business savvy as a business owner in this space. It's, if anything, it prevents you from doing that. And yeah, that's my opinion. Is there a template that is more pressing than the bridge but less than the press template? HLM does, yeah. Would you consider yourself a Baraki early adopters or late adopters? I don't know. Yeah, it probably depends on the context. Yeah, probably a mix of both. You know, early adopters and stuff that we're not as well read on, and later adopters on stuff that we are well read on, because we're probably more resistant to change, if I had to guess. Please demonstrate a proper reverse wrist curl. I don't even know what that is. Is barbell speed a better way to calculate RPE than how I perceive it? No. Nope. Do you have any experience training people with severe scoliosis? Yes, I do, actually. If so, do you have any observations on how the condition affects strength potential or complications with lifting? I mean, yeah, this one person, I don't want to talk much about their case because they'd be potentially identifiable. The problem was really how to hold the bar for the squat. That was hard. So we ended up high barring, but, and they benched just fine, and pressed overhead was tough, so we did incline bench instead, and they deadlifted just fine, though. And I couldn't perceive any unique strength limitation based on them having scoliosis. So, where do you get coffee beans from? It's from Phil's Coffee. Hey Jordan, hip height in the deadlift, is it okay if the beginning of the movement looks like a leg press as long as your back angle isn't increasing? I'm not really sure what that means. Yeah. Does glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM, rose hips, ginger, turmeric, or any other herbal joint supplement do anything? No. There you go. All right. So, hey, I've been here for an hour. You guys are great. Do me a favor, if you're listening, go check out the last training vlog, either on YouTube or iTunes, wherever you get your podcast from, because we got the audio up there. Check out the new article we posted, the Pendulum of Specificity Part 1.